Well, my name is Sandy Kapell. I am the Chief Administrative Officer at Madison Square Garden. I'd like to thank Teachers College for inviting me to deliver this presentation. I graduated from Teachers College 29, 30 years ago. My program actually was a customized program just for me in policy. Now the college has a policy department, which I would definitely continue my interest in. I really feel my education at Teachers College sort of set me up really well for my career, which is not in education, but is in human resources. But with a policy foundation, I really learned how to approach problems. I learned how to think both academically and in a practical real world way about solving problems. I think education takes a lot of forms in our society. In my role as a human resources professional, we train adults, we educate adults, we work with students, we work with graduate students, we work with people who have left the workforce and are returning to the workforce. We grapple with people all along the educational spectrum, depending on the access to education they've had throughout their lives. So I feel, I would also say, even though this presentation isn't about the pandemic, I just want to mention the pandemic and how difficult it has been for our city and for our company and our thousands of employees. And just say that I hope everybody in the TC community is healthy and safe. And well, again, this presentation isn't about the pandemic. A lot of the stuff that we're talking about and sharing with you are tools that we're using to bring our company back, and hope to be opening our doors and welcoming you to our venues soon in a very safe and healthy way so that we can start being a community and entertaining and having fun together. So I thought before I started sort of the technical part of our presentation, I'd talk a little bit about Madison Square Garden and our history. We are 141 years old. And certainly when I came to Madison Square Garden, I wasn't aware of our rich history. We're in our third building. The what you know as the arena now is the third location. We also operate the Beacon Theater in New York City. We operate Radio City Music Hall in New York City, the Hulu Theater. And we also operate the Chicago Theater in Chicago, and we owned, renovated, transformed, and subsequently sold the LA Forum. And all of our venues are regularly recognized as best in their class in the world routinely. One of the reasons that we got involved here in the human resources function, and really our CEO asked us to come in and make big changes, is because he has a vision for completely changing and disrupting the entertainment business. The way the entertainment business currently works is it's mostly a rental business, a very sophisticated rental business to very talented either athletes, artists, comedians, or other performers or entertainers of sorts. And our CEO has a vision for bringing together technology and art in a way that's never really been seen in a building. And that's what we call the sphere. You can actually see an architectural drawing behind me. You can see in our slides artistic rendering. We've already purchased property in London. We're working through how to build our second sphere in London. Again, all the timing has been changed because of the pandemic, but the vision remains the same, and we hope, spheres around the world. So let's talk about where we were in 2016 when I arrived at Madison Square Garden. We'll start by saying there had been 7 HR people, 7 heads of HR in 7 years. There was no compensation program, no transparency whatsoever. The one department didn't know what the next department was doing. There was, for performance management, every HR person had brought in their own performance management program. There was no, how you were rated was not tied to your compensation in any way. We have 10,000 employees, 200, 300 people got bonuses. The rest, there was no bonus program. There's a merit increase program. The student associate program was basically a family referral program. There were no standards, no grade point average. I'm trying to think, we had actually, it's on our slide here, in some of our roles in the venue, we had more than 100% turnover in a season. So the recruiters were just recruiting and recruiting and recruiting and recruiting and recruiting. And you can imagine the impact that has on the customer experience, because we were constantly putting new people who weren't adequately trained or recognized or rewarded, and then they would quit, and then there'd be a new person there. So if you had come to the garden during some of those years, you would have had a different experience than you would have now, where we really train people and reward them, and they I think feel pretty good about how they get rewarded now. But as you might, we also didn't have an employee survey, which is really important because we view that as our report card. So the first thing we did is we put in an employee survey and asked all of our employees a series of 25 questions, very confidentially. We worked with a third party, and the management team was, wounded to see the results, for lack of a better way to talk about it. People have great pride in this company. They're very, very proud to work here. Our brand, many people have childhood memories here, first concerts here, games with their parents here, the Rockettes, bands that they loved as a child, and they come back and see them, or new up and coming bands at the Beacon, or bull riding, circus. I'm just trying to think even for myself when I was young. So there's a lot of pride in the brands and the shows that we put on, but what was particularly upsetting is when we asked our employees if they would recommend a friend to work here, and we were well below the benchmark. And you can see the benchmark is already low, with only 58% of employees saying they would refer a friend to work at their company. And so for us to be below that, we were in the 40s, compared with our pride number, really was a wake-up call to the management team and to me that we had to make changes. We picked sort of 3 areas that we needed to focus on. One was in technology. The second is we needed to have clear feedback loops so that if our employees had something to tell us, management had a way of hearing it. And then I simplify a lot of programs to me that are a whole ecosystem of employee engagement into our performance management program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these 3 buckets. And in my view, if you don't pay attention to each of these 3 buckets, it's very difficult to sustain cultural transformation. You can roll out a bunch of programs, but you don't actually change anything. And our goal was to really make changes. And we knew we were signing up for a minimum of a 3-year change management program, that there was no possibility we could change at that time, 135-year-old culture in 6 months. It wasn't going to happen. And we also knew we needed to fundamentally change the way we did things. So the first thing we did was really focus on technology. And I will say one of the very first things we did was put in a learning management system. We did not have any way of keeping track of, assessing, or developing content for more than 10,000 employees. Everything was done by a trainer in a room where people went if they wanted to. The trainers didn't have any academic grounding and learning, course design, meeting people where they were, how we assess you. Did you actually learn what you were supposed to learn? What's the next step of what you need to learn once you've learned the first skill? So one of the first things we did was put in a learning management system. The second thing we had to do was upgrade our payroll systems. We have more than 30 unions. Many of our payrolls were run manually through Excel spreadsheets. We routinely made mistakes in pay, especially just because of the complicated CBA arrangements we had. Nothing was automated or in a system. We invested heavily in some core systems, just in human resources systems around how we track people, clean up all the titles. With 10,000 people and probably 40,000 titles. It's just like not a rational way to manage a workforce. So that was really the first year, is figuring out how we could automate, how we could standardize, and how we could actually develop our employees so that we weren't just throwing people into jobs. They were getting developed from the day they walked in the door until the day they leave us. So that was effort number one. Effort number two was that we needed more consistent forms of feedback that came directly from the employees to upper management, because we were very clear from our survey results, which we call the Pulse, that something was getting lost in translation with middle management. And so we instituted a series of surveys, onboarding surveys, exit surveys. You've been here 6 months surveys. We introduced a series of focus groups that people could go confidentially in rooms with me, with my colleagues, with other human resources professionals, with our senior leaders, and really started listening to our employees, and especially for our frontlines employees, hearing things from them about how their uniforms are distributed. Did they have the right footwear for the winter? How we could change how we scan tickets or how we serve F&B for our corporate employees, people who had worked, on different floors in the same elevator bank for 20 years, had never met each other. So we actually put in an employee cafeteria and created a community space we call the Hub, so that we could start hosting events just to get people to meet each other and talk to each other, at all ways that we can gain feedback directly from our employees. And that has guided a lot of the decision-making we've made around where do we want to spend money, how do we implement career pathing that makes sense for employees? How do we, what are areas that we really need to train on? Where are our employees really confused? Where are they saying that they're not getting the right information? Or where do we have a strong point of view and they disagree with us? And so we need to train them in a way so that we can get to the right answer, which in the end is all around the experience that we want people to have when they come to an event here. The last thing that we had to really implement was a way of measuring performance. Because this company was so deeply siloed, people didn't leave the department they were in. And the end result of that was that we had a huge turnover problem, because people didn't see that they could take the next step in their career. But no departments wouldn't take employees from other departments because they didn't have a way of assessing performance. We didn't have a company-wide performance management program that everyone trusted. So we worked really hard with the management team, and we had some employee focus groups, and we put in a program that is a 4-point rating scale that uses words, not numbers, to rate people. We give very clear examples of the behaviors that people need to exhibit all or most of the time to be in each one of those ratings. And then we have a very clear goals program that starts at the beginning of our fiscal year that ties to the goals we submit to our board. We're a public company, and every single person in the company, and we know it now because we have technology, has to have goals that tie back to the company goals. And then we can measure you at the end of the year. And it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery. You know what you were supposed to get done. Did you get it done? The funny thing about that program, the first year that we put it in, is the managers hated it and complained and complained and complained and said the employees are not going to like it. They don't want to do all this work. I got my guy. It's all going to be good. So we do our pulse survey. The employees love the performance management program. They love it. They rate it in the 80s. The managers rate it in the 50s. And what we learned from that is the employees were so happy to get goals and to have them laid out in front. And I know what I have to do. And then they could go to our learning management system and say, oh, I want to be promoted to be a supervisor, so I can take this course and learn how to do it. So the first year, it was really the employees that pulled the program forward. And we committed that we would make no changes to it for 3 years, knowing that it would take 3 years for people to get comfortable. So then the next year, everybody got a little more comfortable. The third year, people really understood the program. I think we had a lot of buy-in. We actually started, we can't use it completely with our union population, but we were able to introduce concepts of performance management program, which led to the first ever recognition program for our venue-based employees, where they won a number of awards throughout the quarter, but they're big. The top 1% of them went to Vegas and got a tour of the Sphere construction site. We actually have a picture of them at the end. And that has been just a home run for them and a home run for our guests, because they set the tone of how we want to treat people and how we want to interact with people and how helpful we want to be with our guests. So going back to our report card, so we're about to actually launch our pulse right now in the next week or so. But last year, and we do it every year, we launched our survey, and now we're above the benchmark on would you recommend a friend to work here. We're way over the benchmark on that measure, and we're above the benchmark on pride to work here. So we feel really, really good about the tools that we implemented. We also know, if I'd showed you every year of the pulse survey, you'd see the first year, the second year went sort of worse than the first year because people were very negative and uncomfortable in the change. And then in the third year, when they started seeing, oh, we're not making changes and I can trust compensation, and they said they'd invest in this technology and now it's here, then you see it just goes up from there. And this year, of course, our primary focus is opening, but we, like many companies, are highly focused on, we have been for a long time given our industry, but on diversity and inclusion. And we're finding that we're able to approach these conversations using these programs, because they're programs that people trust now. And so how do we bring people into them? How do we measure ourselves in a different way? How do we look at data in a different way? And because we made that significant investment in technology 6 years ago, we really have been able to have pretty sophisticated conversations and use programs that people are comfortable with to drive what I view as the next round of really significant change we need to make here. And really, we hope, lead our industry, not only with the Sphere, but lead our industry with our culture. We're really excited about the path we're on. We're not super excited about, the work we've had to do in the pandemic, because it was hard, and it, definitely wasn't what we had planned for this summer. But what we do feel like is that our employees have really risen to the occasion. The people that are here are working hard to make this a better place to come back to. And I want to leave you with, this is a picture of our first ever Rockstar All-Star class. They're in Vegas at the Sphere building site last year. We can't wait to have all of our employees back. We can't wait to open our doors for all of you to come to an event. We're not done. We know we have another 6 years of change, and then I'm sure when we hit that 6 years, we'll say we've got another 6 years. And the goal for us is to really constantly keep feedback coming from our employees, constantly understand what we have to do to attract and retain the best and the brightest. And we have a very ambitious CEO, so I'm sure there'll be a new thing that we need to disrupt once we figure this one out. If anybody has any questions about our change program, we love to talk about it. We love to share. We're not private. We'll share anything anybody needs with help. And I will end by saying thank you. Thank you to the team at MSG. Thank you to Teachers College, and thank you to all of my teachers at Teachers College that really helped me get started on, what I expected to be an academic. I did not anticipate being an HR person, and here I am. So thank you to everybody, and I'm honored to be part of this festival.